BBC, inspiring Uganda.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Weekly Business Roundup. With me, your host, Wadulo Mark Arnold. We're grateful that you have tuned in, and these are this week's highlights. The Ministry of Finance releases Q4 funds amidst tough economic times. School heads cautioned against procuring uncertified foods. University students urged to embrace the gig economy. And on the regional scene, Uganda Railways Corporation repairs wagons to serve the Central Corridor route. With all these and more, it's absolutely time for business. The Permanent Secretary and Secretary to the Treasury, Ramadhan Gobi, announced the release of the Q4 government expenditure funds for the financial year 2022-23. Now, he notes that government operations in March 2023 resulted in fiscal deficits of 823 billion, which exceeded the programmed deficit of 431 billion. Let's have a look. Payment of government areas have continued to exceed their approved budget sum by 16.3% of the planned 661.95 billion, which now stands at 769.53 billion. This fourth quarter of the financial year 2022-23, government has released 2 trillion for non-wage expenditures, 1.6 trillion for wages, 1.3 trillion for Government of Uganda Development, allocating only 24.1 billion for the areas.
It is called budget repurposing. I am tired of hearing budget cuts. It's called budget repurposing. Money moving from certain areas to the priorities. That's the entire essence of what we call allocative efficiency in a budget. But some people are used to history of my budget. There is nobody in this republic who has their personal budgets. This is a national budget. When a nation agrees by consensus that these are the priorities, then the budget has to be repurposed to move money from those areas which have ceased to be the priority to those areas which are priority.
Gobi has emphasized the need for government officials, especially accounting officers, to negate the abundance mentality, which has often led government to borrow more than it's able to pay back sustainably.
Some countries, their capital markets have collapsed completely. They can't issue bonds. Why? Because they borrowed badly in the past. In Uganda, we are lucky that we've had this foresight leadership that maintained our debt levels at relatively manageable levels. But going forward, we need also to ensure that this is not only sustained but improved further by borrowing less.
International funding is declining and non-concessional sources are becoming more expensive. Therefore, effective tax administration and strategic public investment has become key in sustaining Uganda's economy.
We commend the efforts that had been started, that have been freezed now, merging the agencies to reduce public administration expenditure. But now it is stalled. Why is the process stalled? It would be important to comment on that because I think we are projected to save up over 800 billion.
There is also a continuing outcry from MDAs about not having funds, yet the ministry communicates that funds are being released. Where could the gap be?
Some of our ministries, departments and agencies misrepresent facts. They say, you see, finance is releasing air. They give us a release, but they don't give us money. Please, on my platform, I have very few invoices, and we keep on paying them as cash comes in. We run a cash budget.
The Uganda National Bureau of Standards is tasking bulk food consumers to take the lead in promoting the consumption of certified food. This was during a dialogue with heads of academic institutions where they were urged to adopt the practice of procuring food from only certified companies.
With the influx of substandard goods in the Ugandan market, the National Bureau of Standards has urged heads of academic institutions to spearhead a drive that will ensure only certified products are consumed in their institutions.
We are going to use all the avenues possible, beginning from you, but also government airtime in UBC and other networks, to really say that you must be your own guardian first. If you want to survive, please look for good food.
This initiative intends to persuade all bulk food consumers to shun away from the manufacturers and suppliers whose standards do not meet the quality yardstick.
We need to reflect our mandate and actually be aggressive. We've been too soft for too long. We want to ask you, please do the right thing. We don't like to be seen in the market destroying and throwing food everywhere. It doesn't help our image either.
So our effort is to inculcate quality thinking, not only at the consumer level, but at the processor level and at the producer level, so that we can have quality throughout the value chain.
Schools and other institutions such as prisons and hospitals are bulk purchasers of goods like maize flour, rice and beans. This call for uncompromised quality and forms a basis upon which the dialogue was held.
My question is it being soft or being compromised?
And I would also wish you to tell us how you are going to be tracking these people, because sometimes you are waiting for them, but when you go to Chikubu, when you go to every town, you find people are saying that we are doing milling, and we are here to provide the best service for you, but no one is looking at what they're doing.
If we are to put standards, I'm afraid that some producers outside might outcompete the local producers near the schools. And if they outcompete them, the child will be affected.
Accordingly, the Uganda National Bureau of Standards has revealed that the number of certified companies authorized to supply products can now be found on their website. During the dialogue, emphasis was put on food hygiene, with concerns raised on handling practices in the storage facilities.
Consumption of uncertified and substandard food can have dire consequences and must be completely avoided.
And in relation to this, we had an exclusive interview with Collins Apoyo from Feed the Future on matters of quality and enforcement of the standards body appeal and directives.
Right. We have been charged with the responsibility of improving the contribution of agriculture to the economy of Uganda. And we have been specifically tasked to help smallholder farmers to improve their productivity. We have been tasked to help improve value addition and also to improve marketing of agricultural products in Uganda. We do this in 38 districts in Uganda and in specific regions. We are in the southwest, we are in eastern Uganda or Mount Elgon region, we are in northern Uganda, and then we are in Karamoja. Right.
So now we are here at a very important stakeholder meeting, and it's about, the whole discussion is about feeding in institutions and especially schools, and even of course prison and the rest. I know you've done your research on issues. Of course these schools feed on grains. So what is the status on ground? Because the issue that we are tackling here is about the quality, and it looks like quality has always been an issue in our country in as far as grains are concerned.
Thank you. I will just give you a little background on where we started from. Yes. About 1.5 years, 2 years ago, the Kenyan government banned grains from Uganda. Yes. And the reason why the grains were banned was about aflatoxin. It was found that grains from Uganda have very high levels of aflatoxin. Yes. And we know the relationship between aflatoxin and health So we started by trying to find out why do we have so much aflatoxin in Ugandan grains. So we went to the producers and we found out there was a lot of post-harvest handling issues. If we want to tackle aflatoxin, we must start from how farmers handle products after harvesting. Then we came out and talked to the manufacturers and we asked them, why do they accept bad grains?
Yes.
And the processors told us that the reason why they handle bad grains is because the market does not care about the quality of products they. And that is when we focused on the manufacturers and started asking, how can you be the engines that drive quality standards in the food sector? So we trained them on good manufacturing practices, on hygiene and food safety. But they said they have no incentive to produce quality if the market is not requesting or asking for quality.
Talking about supply, you know, we've all been in these academic institutions, and there are times when, you know, the demand exceeds supply, where the schools have no choice. Don't you think we're in a catch-22 situation? Because why? The school, there are times when they send their people out there, get for us maize, we need posho, get for us beans, we can take anything. Yet here we're hearing from UNBS, they have come up with directives that you only have to buy grains from certified dealers. How possible is it to enforce this?
I think that we do appreciate the complexity of the situation. Yes. But in any change process, you must have change drivers.
I like that, yeah.
And we are looking at change drivers from this particular event that we are holding today. We are hoping that we can have people who will, despite all the complexities, will stick to the need to drive change. Okay. And we hope that that is the seed we are planting today.
Okay. The consequences of consuming substandard grains, what are some of them? Of course, I've heard about infections, but you are the guys in this who have been doing some research. You know what it causes. Just talk about the health consequences and probably the economic consequences.
Look, just the fact that at some point, Kenyan government banned the export of Ugandan maize. During that period, there was a oversupply of maize around the border, yes. Because that cuts an economic income to the producers of maize. So if we don't drive quality, then it shows itself by such banning of exports, which then hurt our producers. I am not a medical expert, but what I know is that constant consumption of unsafe food has health implications. And I would not be surprised if some of our cancer cases, if some of our TB cases, if some of our cases related to worms and what have you that we have in schools and among children are not related to the quality of food that we eat. The economic implication of that is the amount of resources that the government has to use in order to treat those diseases. I'm also aware that if our children consume unsafe and bad quality foods, it has an impact on their physical health development and mental development. And therefore you find that we could relate the low performance in schools to some of the foods that our children take. So I think looking at this, the economic implication of bad food is huge, and it affects everyone. The child eats bad food, they get sick, they don't perform well in school, the parent has to pay for it, the government has to avail facilities to deal with those health issues, and the long-term effect is that then we have our labor force that is not prepared to deliver.
Enough said from Mr. Collins Apoyo on issues pertaining to school feeding. I have nothing else to add. Thank you for being part of the show.
President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni has directed the Uganda Civil Aviation Authority to upgrade the infrastructure of 4 aerodromes in Uganda. Now, this move is aimed at strengthening Uganda's tourism potential through easing transport. Let's have a look.
When 4 airdromes have their road infrastructure upgraded, the tourism sector in Uganda will not be the same. This was the message by President Yoweri Museveni as he directed Civil Aviation Authority to renovate Pakuba, Kasese, Kisoro and Kidepo airfields.
To allow arrivals that don't need to first get to Entebbe Airport. The Uganda Road Fund has money to do this, and it should act immediately. When appropriate improvements have been made, these aerodromes should also have an international code to allow tourists booked directly to the game parks. The CAA should work with the private sector and the CAO and IATA where necessary to gazette and improve safety standards so that these aerodromes can be given international codes.
To this effect, Museveni wants Uganda Communications Commission to extend broadband connections to aerodromes.
I was told in South Africa that many of our diaspora doctors would like to perform surgeries for patients or teach students in Uganda online, but hospitals and universities lack 5G network facilities. I direct UCC, Uganda Communications Commission, to work with the telecoms to roll this one out.
It was his first quarterly broadcast as to honor his promise that he made towards the end of March 2023. The first address focused on tourism, with the private sector asked to find more investors for the hotel subsector.
The private sector can help us get more airlines to land in Uganda and expand the capacity of the Entebbe airport, including modern automation capacity. All the border points starting with Malaba, Mpondwe, Elegu, Mtukura should be treated as export and tourism points and have the private sector involved in the design and setup of the hubs.
This address is an initiative masterminded by the Presidential Advisory Committee on Exports and Industrial Development. Audrey Kruabogo is the committee chairperson, whose gospel for marketing Ugandan exports remains exclusive.
In this audience, there are people from tourism who will be in it. There are people from coffee, people from tea, so that we can really take a compound view of our country and deliver one punch when we go to a market. We will replicate this in 7 areas once this one takes off in June.
Players in the tourism sector described the presidential directives as timely.
Because when tourists come here, they eat eggs, they eat potatoes, they eat everything, you know, that every Ugandan is producing. And what Uganda has been lacking is a market. Now, when we market, when we do things that improve the numbers of tourists that come to Uganda, it helps all of us. So I'm excited about what the President of Uganda has just said today, and I hope they can implement what they've said.
The occasion was also graced by the presence of the Serbian Minister for Internal and Foreign Trade, Tomislav Momirovic. Part of the reasons for his visit was to invite President Museveni for the opening of the Ugandan Trade Center in Serbia, slated for June 2023. The center is meant to market and sell Uganda's coffee, bananas, chocolate, grains and tourism in the region.
Serbia is excited to host Expo exhibition in Belgrade. It presents a tremendous opportunity for Ugandan companies to showcase themselves on European markets. We look forward to working closely with Uganda to facilitate your participation in existing events.
I thank them for bringing us processors of pineapples and buyers of our products. I accept the invitation to come to Belgrade to open the Uganda Trade Hub.
A memorandum of understanding was signed between Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovations with the Private Sector Foundation to catalyze Uganda's quest for increased exports. Henry Okrut, UBC.
University students must be flexible and willing to take advantage of income-generating opportunities that come their way. Now, this appeal was made by panelists at the NSSF 2023 Career Expo held at Makerere University Business School.
The National Social Security Fund Annual Career Expo will benefit more than 5,000 students in 7 universities countrywide. This year's edition is focused on empowering the youth with skills to succeed in the emerging gig economy.
Part of this Career Expo is prepare them for life after the university, give them some skills that will get them get a job and keep a job. It even includes financial literacy. We've been doing this for the last 12 years. Over 155,000 students have actually gone through our program, and so far we know that over 15,000 have actually got jobs after having gone through our programs.
At least 41% of youth in Uganda, which represents 9.3 million aged between 18 and 30 years, are not engaged in any productive activity. By empowering them to take advantage of the massive opportunities in the gig economy and digital spaces, NSSF and partners are indirectly playing a big part in curbing the unemployment challenge.
If you want to make money, sometimes you will have to just forget about, and say, this is beneath me. You can't do anything actually, provided it's not a criminal offense and it doesn't go against your value system. You can do it, even if it means getting your hands dirty. Thirdly, what I learned was the need to innovate continuously. I think some of the speakers talked about innovation.
Uncle Mo, a digital influencer, and Sarah Kajingo, the founder of Soft Power, an online publication, were some of the panelists at the Makerere University Business School Career Expo.
When your mother takes out your tooth, she doesn't become a dentist, yeah? It's so much practice, setting up shop, taking out too many people's teeth in different ways, even putting back others. That's when you become a renowned dentist. Guys, I have tried things. I have been clever at stuff. I have tried shortcuts, and I'll tell you today and now, there is no shortcut to hard work.
Come up with a schedule. For me now, I'm here speaking, but I know what I'm going to be doing at 3 p.m. Make sure that your first job, prioritize it. You're meeting your deadlines. You're meeting your responsibilities. And schedule these gigs maybe around lunchtime. Digital platforms come in handy.
In the coming weeks, students from various universities will be imparted with intrinsic skill set to flourish in the gig market, balancing gig work with permanent job, turning gig work into flourishing business, financial literacy, among others.
I also started as a direct salesperson. I've grown through my sales career, and just recently got my promotion as the country manager, but ever through my 5 years, I've been doing sales. So you have to be willing to start with those gigs, you have to be willing to start at the bottom, and every time you get a chance, you have to be willing to give your best.
Dennis Igoa for UBC Business.
The Uganda Railways Corporation is rehabilitating 20 wagons to boost the Central Corridor fleet. The entity has received the financial support of $300,000 from the Central Corridor Transit Transport Facilitation Agency to execute these works.
The rehabilitation of Uganda Railways Corporation flatbed wagons has started in earnest at Nalukolongo URC workshop. The project, which is facilitated by the Central Corridor Transit Transport Facilitation Agency to a tune of $300,000, had delayed due to logistical challenges.
We have spelled out 20 wagons for rehabilitation, and this is the first one. What you see here, the team has scraped the paint off. They have looked at the bogies. These are the bogies, and there will be 20 flat wagons.
These 20 wagons will serve the Central Corridor route. Will serve the Central Corridor route, and we need to improve the capacity of URC to attract cargo from here to Central Corridor route to Dar es Salaam, to Mwanza, and so on, and from Dapot to Uganda.
According to the contractor, they have a completion time frame of 2 months.
Presently, we have done the first inspections. We first have to inspect the spares. Now we inspected the wagons. So we have brought the wagons into the shop. We are intending to finish about maybe 5 or so wagons every fortnight so that we can complete within the 2 months.
We have received the bulk of spares, local supplies 100%, then importables we have received close to 95%. And among the importables, we have a link as one of the spares which came from India as importables for the rehabilitation of the wagons.
When the works are completed, the wagons will be exclusively deployed into the Central Corridor route to boost cargo transport.
The purpose of this is to have more freight on the Central Corridor. We understand currently they have 60 wagons on the freight, which are dedicated to the freight. So if they add on 20 to make 80, plus others which they add on from time to time when the need arises.
A flatbed wagon is an open-deck equipment that has no roof or sides, and it's mainly used for transporting heavy, oversized, wide and indelicate goods such as machinery and building supplies. Charlotte Amuge and Dennis Igor for UBC News.
In real time, there's no opportunity for a complaint falling off. We find this as a very big plus. For the majority of electricity consumers, that's one of the things that challenges them. They think that when you lodge a complaint, you will not get a response, or you will not even get through. You know, the regulator works on data information reports from utilities. Reports coming in, say, from UMEME, from UEDCL, from UETCL, all that is now going to be eased when we request for a report. And say UTCL submits a report, all responsible people are able to see that. In that way, there is nothing that I sent a report, you didn't receive, but I sent, but I didn't receive. All that's going to be history.
Replace old inefficient appliances with more efficient ones. Lower the temperature after the cooking appliances have acquired the maximum heat while cooking. Use a pressure cooker to cook hard foods like beans, meat, peas and rice. Switch off cooking appliances when not in use. Cover cooking saucepans to minimize energy wastage. Use solid electric plates instead of electric coils. Avoid frequent cooking. Cooking should be done at least once. Boil water with a kettle that has a thermostat rather than a cooker. Use heat-conserving appliances like food flasks to avoid unnecessary warming of food.
When it seems to you that the goal is unattainable, do not change the goal but change the plan of action. Credit to the great quotes from Confucius. Thank you for being a part of this episode of the Weekly Business Roundup. With me, your host, Wadulo Mark Arnold. Catch us on the next, same time, same place. From the team, we must say goodbye.